Chapter 33:20. I don't have any new ideas for now, Pei Tianyi said. I just brought Xiao Tian here to familiarize herself with the environment. Pei Tianyi suddenly felt a little sad when he saw the clones. He didn't expect the number to increase so much. They were all defective clones. Gao Feng had once mocked him and said that he wasn't suitable for this line of work. He now felt that it was true. I see. If Professor Pei has any new ideas, we can discuss them. I still have some things to do, so I won't stay here any longer. Gao Feng glanced at Tang Guo before walking past her. Tang Guo stared at him without blinking. This made Pei Tianyi's heart tremble. He waited until Tang Guo's figure disappeared before saying, even if you hate him, you can't keep staring at him. If you're discovered, it won't be easy for you to escape no matter how capable you are. This wasn't a high-rise building. It was underground. As long as the safety door was closed, there was almost no possibility of escape. Professor Pei, I'm almost familiar with the environment, Tang Guo said. She was thinking about the purpose of this fake Gao Feng. Tongzi, help me monitor that fake Gao Feng. What is he doing? Fake great host. Even if you don't ask me, I will monitor him. Pei Tianyi felt that it was enough for today. He asked for Tang Guo's opinion and let her go back to her room. Because she was his assistant, their rooms were next to each other. After Tang Guo returned to her room, she leaned against the side and sank her consciousness into the system space to count her gene repair agent. She looked at the human clones just now. The gene repair agent that Emmanuel gave her didn't seem to be enough. Hence, she went into the group and asked Emmanuel for some more. The gene repair agent that Emmanuel gave her was very effective. Whether it was the human clones or the human clones, it could repair the defective genes perfectly. When the time came, the clones with no defects would be in the best state in terms of physical strength and intelligence. If it still wasn't enough, she could give them a gene evolution agent. Anyway, they were clones. This didn't make a difference. As for this small island, it would be the territory of the clones in the future. If they really went out to play, they would scare the humans. System. Fortunately, Great Host is no longer the same as before. If it was the Great Host from a long time ago, he wasn't sure if the clones would turn the world upside down. Dear Host, Fake Peak is making a move. He wandered around the various laboratories and finally returned to his room. What did he do? After he entered the house, he went into his room's secret room. The system said that Gao Feng's room had a secret room. Tang Guo wasn't surprised. This weirds. SSS. SSS. But this. SST. S. He's C. As. The. Chapter 33:21. The real Gao Feng was tied up like a dumpling. Tang Guo found that he was tied up with an iron bar. It seemed to have been removed from somewhere. Looking at the degree of distortion, the person who twisted it should be very powerful. The young man, who was the fake Gao Feng, was sitting beside Gao Feng, drinking water with a cold expression. He was unmoved by Gao Feng's words. Okay, tell me. What do you want? As long as you let me go, you can have anything. Gao Feng did not expect that one day he would end up like this. One morning when he woke up in the room, he was tied up like this. Fortunately, the other party did not intend to take his life. You want identity, money, status, or women, I can give you all. Let's make an exchange. If you are worried, I can give you these first. Gao Feng was very anxious. His physical condition was not good, and he was tied up with this cold iron bar. So far, his body was very numb. The other party might know him too well and cut off all his escape routes. It was impossible for him to get information from the outside world. Other people did not dare to come to his room casually. At least, the other party would only come to his room to look for him with his permission. After a long time, when Gao Feng was drenched in cold sweat, the young man finally spoke. I want all the clones in this laboratory. Arrange an identity for all of them and let them live peacefully, just like you ordinary humans. As long as they live well, I will not kill you. Are you crazy? You can go out and live a good life. Why do you have to care about so many people? They are just clones, not real people. Gao Feng almost jumped up, but he could not jump up now. If he did not look at the information, he would not know how many clones there were in the laboratory. And there would be an endless stream of clones, many of which were private jobs he took outside. Ouyang Shixin would not ask about these things at all. As long as he helped his employer cultivate clones and let his employer get what he wanted, he would be able to gain huge benefits. The current situation was that his achievements could not be announced to the world at all. The world would not know his greatness, so he could only compensate himself with money. He had endless money, and his employers were very generous people. Of course, he didn't want to let the young man in front of him go, but now that the young man had his life in his hands, he could only compromise for the time being and trick the young man first. Once the danger was over, they could capture the other party. Wouldn't that be the same? In addition, he had to study this Gao Feng 1 clone carefully. Its physical strength, intelligence, and reflexes were beyond his expectations. If he were to capture it and study it properly, he might be able to obtain something new. After all, he had cultivated this clone to provide organs for himself. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no progress in the other experiments, he would have chosen to use this clone's body directly. Yes, Gao Feng was no longer satisfied with just changing his organs. He believed that his body would not be able to withstand the constant replacement of organs. If the mental power possessed by a human could occupy another young body, then he would be immortal. Immortality, how tempting. Chapter 33:22. As long as his mental strength was not extinguished, when his body became weak, he could immediately change into a younger body. Thinking of this, the excitement in Gao Feng's eyes could not be concealed. Your request is too difficult. Don't you know how many clones there are in the entire laboratory? In recent years, the number of clones had increased by a lot. In another 2 years, there would be more than 100,000 clones. The main thing was that the number of clones that could be successfully cultivated and used by the employer was not many. It would be fine if there were some defects, but he was afraid that there would not be the parts that the employer needed. Fortunately, most of these clones could be used. Even if they could not be used when there were people outside who needed them, he could sell the corneas, organs, and other things of these clones to those people who needed them. I only want this. If you can't do it, you can forget about your freedom. The young man was very stubborn. No matter what Gao Feng said, he would not agree. While Gao Feng was still blabbering on, he slapped Gao Feng's face and punched and kicked him. Gao Feng cried out in pain and hurriedly asked him to stop. You know pain too? The young man said sarcastically. We are in more pain than you. Have you forgotten how you cut our bodies with a knife? Is this really your condition? Only this condition. As long as you arrange for them, I will not kill you. When Tangwa saw this, she already understood that this young man was Gao Feng's clone. The other party should be the smarter type. He should be like her. Okay, let me think about it. You know that there are tens of thousands of people. It's not easy to arrange them. You have to give me some time, right? Gao Feng seemed to have compromised. Also, you've been tying me up. I can't help you arrange things. Aren't I you? Tell me what you want to arrange and I'll do it. Gao Feng's face darkened. He did not expect this clone to be so smart and not fall for his trick. It was probably because he kept this guy by his side so often that this guy learned a lot. Now, he had to redefine the position of this clone. It should not be Gao Feng #1 clone but Gao Feng #1 clone. He really didn't expect that he would be able to cultivate another level of clone. He was simply the father of cloning. All right, I'll leave it to you. Gao Feng seemed to have compromised. There are so many people here. If we send too many people out, it will definitely arouse suspicion. By then, all of your clones will be in danger. You should know that this world is very big and there are countless humans. Humans also have very powerful weapons, so, ouch, cut the crap and get straight to the point. The young man punched Gao Feng again. Take your time. You should be able to live for more than 10 years. It's still possible to arrange for tens of thousands of clones. I've checked your account. There's a lot of money. It's enough. Tangwa laughed out loud when she saw this. This clone was quite interesting. Tong Zi, let's go find Professor Gao. She remembered that in the storyline, there were indeed situations where the clones had problems. It seemed like Gao Feng was in danger. Previously, she had thought that it was Ouyang Shixian's opponent. Now, it seemed that it was this clone who had done it. In the plot, Ouyang Shixian had helped Gao Feng resolve that crisis. Naturally, this clone had failed. System, it's confirmed, it's that unlucky bastard. Chapter 33-23. In the current world, no matter how sophisticated the electronic lock or security door was, with the system's current ability, it could easily crack it. Therefore, it was very easy for Tangguo to open Gao Feng's room door. It did not take much effort at all. There was another secret room inside the room. The system did not stop and continued to crack the password of the secret room door. Perhaps the two people inside were more focused and thought that other than them, no one else would come here at this time. Even if they wanted to come, they would not be able to. I've already told you the plan. If you don't believe me, you can arrange for 10 people to go out first. After they're safe and live the life of an ordinary person, we'll make the second arrangement. What do you think? Gao Feng looked at the young man in front of him and said, he could not help but feel lucky that when he was making his clone, he had been careful and changed the other party's facial features. If he had known that this clone was so smart and could think independently, he would have gone all the way and changed the other party's fingerprints. Then there would not be so much trouble. After all, he did not know when his other experiment would succeed. Therefore, this clone in front of him was just a vessel to provide him with young organs. The other requirements for the appearance were not too high. Of course, Gao Feng would not be manipulated by the other party. Of course, he would still follow the other party's arrangements for the first time. His life was still in the other party's hands. When the other party let down his guard, he would be able to take action to save himself. The young man thought for a moment and said, okay, arrange for 10 people first. I'll believe you this time. If you play any tricks, this will be your end. After saying that, he squeezed the glass in his hand hard and shattered it. Gao Feng was a little scared, but when he saw the young man's unharmed palm, his heart was burning with passion. He had actually developed such a powerful clone. How great would it be if he was the one with such powerful strength? It seemed that he should carry out the second experiment properly. After all, even if he changed all the organs in his body, he could not achieve immortality. He would still die and grow old. Gao Feng quickly hid the emotions in his eyes and said submissively, okay, how can I lie to you? My life is still in your hands, isn't it? Why wouldn't you lie to him, Professor Gao? You have a lot of plans in your heart. The outside world is foreign to the clones. Even if you didn't lie to him the first and second time, it's hard to guarantee that you won't play any tricks on him the third time. Tangguo walked into the secret room from the door. She leaned against the door frame and looked at the vigilant look on Gao Feng and the young man's faces. She smiled and said, if I'm not wrong, you will succeed twice. After that, you will send a distress signal to the people outside. After all, if you want to arrange those clones, you will need the help of the people outside. If I'm not wrong, the person you're seeking help from is Ouyang Shixian, right? Ouyang Shixian can be considered the owner of this laboratory. All of your research funding can't be separated from Ouyang Shixian. Or you, how did you get in? Gao Feng was really scared now. Although many people in the laboratory knew about Ouyang Shixian, he wondered how Ouyang Shixian would know about his request for help. Chapter 33-24. There's something wrong with this person. You'd better capture her quickly. I suspect that she's an enemy of our laboratory and is here to cause trouble. In a moment of desperation, Gao Feng hurriedly said to the young man, no matter what, capture her first. You should be very powerful. It should be easy to capture a woman. The young man did not move. Instead, he turned around and looked at Tangguo. He had seen Tangguo before. Although he did not see her face and she was wearing a protective mask now, he could still recognize the words on the name tag. Also, he had felt that there was something wrong with this Tang Tian. It was not that he suspected her, but she gave him a very familiar feeling. That was why he had been staring at her. He had said those words to Pei Tianyi so that he could have more time to look at her. Later on, he had more important things to do, so he gave up on investigating her. He did not expect her to come here quietly. Other than Gao Feng and his clone, No one else should have the authority to enter Gao Feng's room and this small secret room. The young man had no intention of capturing Tanghua. His intuition told him that she did not seem to have any ill intentions. Why you still in a daze? If you don't capture her, when the laboratory is exposed, all of your clones will be in trouble. Faced with destruction, or used for other purposes, I can't guarantee. Gao Feng was very afraid. His intuition told him that this woman's appearance was not a good thing. He did not feel that danger was coming before, but this woman gave him the feeling that she was too dangerous. You've been by my side for so long. You should know how greedy humans are, right? Every part of your clones is a treasure. If she exposed this laboratory, it would be impossible for you to live a peaceful life like you are now, let alone lead a normal life. Shut up. The young man hated Gao Feng's incessant chatter. He punched him in the face. Gao Feng was in so much pain that he teared up. He hated this clone to the core. Because of the pain, he could not speak at all. I've seen how greedy humans can be. Even if you don't expose this, do you think our clones will have a good ending? The young man opened the drawer and threw a stack of documents at Gao Feng's face, giving him another punch. Haven't you already worked hard? These are all your client's information. I remember every detail clearly. I've read all the information you have here. If not for the fact that he had no choice but to rely on Gao Feng's help, he would have done it himself and killed Gao Feng. Although he was cloned from Gao Feng's own genes, Gao Feng was a cautious person. He changed his facial features so that people would know that he wasn't Gao Feng. He had to wear a protective mask no matter what he wanted to do. Fortunately, everyone in this experimental base was wearing a protective mask, so his identity would not be exposed. Gao Feng had changed his facial features, but he did not change his fingerprints or pupils. Gao Feng's eyes were filled with stars after being beaten up by the young man. The other party's punch was still very heavy. Now, he basically didn't dare to speak again. He was afraid that if his opponent punched him again, he would lose his life. "You're Tang Tian's assistant," the young man said with certainty. There was no doubt in his voice. Chapter 33-25. Tanghua walked in and sat down in front of the young man. "I am. We've met before, but you don't seem to be Professor Gao." "That's right, I'm not. I'm just a clone made from his genes. I'm an imposter." The young man did not seem to be afraid. That strange feeling made him feel that there was no need to be afraid. "Why didn't you listen to Gao Feng and capture me? If I exposed everything here, you would be in danger." Tanghua smiled. She felt that this clone was very interesting. She did not expect him to have self-awareness and start to resist. System, that's not all, right? He should have discovered something else, right? He did not expect this guy to be so shameless in order to chase after his wife. He was quite happy being a clone. However, the two punches that he had thrown at Gao Feng just now were quite satisfying. Gao Feng sat there weakly. His face was bruised and swollen, and his nose was bleeding. He did not struggle at all. He just stared at the two of them with a pair of dead fish eyes. "I feel that you're not in danger." Although it was a strange feeling, he trusted this woman more than Gao Feng. He knew that Gao Feng was not trustworthy. However, he wanted to save the clones here. After observing for a long time, he could only use this method. First of all, Gao Feng was the person in charge here. He was very arbitrary. Basically, no one would object to his arrangements. In his current situation, he could not go out by himself. Once he went out, he would have to take off his protective mask. Then, his identity would be exposed. There were tens of thousands of clones in the laboratory that needed help. If they were not saved, they would all die. Humans would take away their useful things and throw them into the cold freezer. He observed for a long time before finally attacking Gao Feng. After subduing Gao Feng, he beat him up viciously. Only then did he feel better. He did not think that his method would succeed. He just wanted to try. If he still could not succeed, he would think of a way to destroy the entire laboratory. Instead of becoming a tool for humans to use, and watching his own kind live in fear of being taken away, he would rather die. You guessed right. I'm not in danger. In this short period of time, Tanghua saw the gloom in the young man's eyes. Perhaps he already knew that such a plan would have a high chance of failure in the end? Tangwa took off her protective mask, revealing her original appearance. Genetic modification agents could change one's genes, but they wouldn't change one's face. However, she could easily solve this problem through her own means, such as wearing a human skin mask. At this moment, she revealed her original appearance. Gao Feng, who had been silent at the side, suddenly screamed, You are Tangwa #1 clone. You're a clone. Why you here? Aren't you with Ouyang Shixin? In his anxiety, Gao Feng could not help but ask about everything. After asking, his face was completely pale. Since the other party was a clone, then they were clones of 2 different levels. It was impossible to sow discord between them. Let me give you a word of advice. Don't struggle anymore. There are only 2 of you. You won't be able to resist. Gao Feng said fiercely. Chapter 33:26. You don't have to worry about that, Professor Gao. Soon there will be many of us. We have to thank Professor Gao for allowing us to have so many of our kind. Tangwa's lips curled into a smile. She walked in front of Gao Feng and raised her hand to give him a punch. Gao Feng cried out in pain. You're also a clone. I know, you're Tangwa's clone. The young man looked at Tangwa and smiled from the bottom of his heart. He even reached out his hand. So my intuition wasn't wrong. You're not in danger because we're the same kind. System, you're still a silly boy. What do you mean by the same kind? The great host isn't in danger because you're the same kind. It's because you, silly boy, placed restrictions on yourself that can warn you of danger and non-danger at any time. When you meet the great host, do you dare to set it as dangerous? Then I'll call you Tang Tian from now on. Tangwa didn't deny it. After all, there was another Tangwa in this world. Then she would use this alias for the time being, in case the people around her called her by the wrong name. Actually, I also secretly came up with a name for myself. Perhaps it was because he had met a strong and intelligent fellow of his kind. The young man was very happy. He didn't even let go of Tangwa's hand. He held it tightly and said, I thought I wouldn't have the chance to use it. I didn't expect to be able to introduce myself to someone of my kind today. Tangwa was amused by the other party's silly look. Previously, she thought he was quite capable. He beat up Gao Feng whenever he wanted to, and he told Gao Feng to shut up at the slightest provocation. His analysis of everything was clear and logical. But now that he was here, why was he acting so silly? System, this is called acting silly in front of your wife. Only then will your wife give you sweets. This fellow looks silly on the surface, but he's actually using this image to disguise himself so that he can win the host's sympathy. Speaking of which, he's not really a fool. He's clearly a treacherous fellow. Then what kind of name did you give yourself? Tangwa gave him face and asked. The other party's words clearly meant that he wanted her to take the initiative to ask. This clone was quite interesting. He even cared about formalities. When the young man heard Tangwa's question, his whole person became a lot more serious, and he became serious. Perhaps it was because of what he had said before, but Tangwa felt that he was still a little silly. He was not at all as smart as he seemed when he first came in. Jiang Exin, the young man said seriously. I've been thinking about this name for a long time. Oh, is there any special meaning? Gao Feng, who was slowly waking up, was furious. These 2 clones would beat him up for no reason, and now they were discussing about a new name in front of him. Did they really think that they were a real human just because they had a new name? Naive and stupid. How many clones were there? There were only 2 of them. How could they go against the entire human race? Originally, I thought of Jiang Xinxing, but these 3 words didn't sound good together. It lacked some meaning, so I just used Jiang Xinxing. It meant that he was about to be reborn. This is also my wish. I hope that one day I can truly be reborn and not be reduced to tools like my own kind. I believe that we are also humans, just that we were born in different ways. But the humans here seem to only see us as tools. You were also created by them. You were born for others. I've seen your information before. Chapter 33:27. They want all the organs in your body. Although you're very strong, once you lose all your organs, you'll only die and be thrown into the freezer. Jiang Exen suddenly became serious. So we have to fight back. Only then will we have a chance to be reborn. Ha, don't even think about it. Even if you control me, if you want to survive as a human in this world, that's a fool's dream. Gao Feng couldn't help but sneer. They were just two clones. Even if they killed Gao Feng, they wouldn't be able to live peacefully in this world. Clones were just clones. They weren't qualified to be compared to humans. They were just tools for humans. Gao Feng's words seemed to have angered Jiang Exen. He punched Gao Feng on the nose and knocked him out again. Tang Tian, let's work together. Jiang Exen said, other than me, you're the only one of our kind who is as smart and powerful as you. Previously, I was the only one thinking of a way. Now, there are two of us. I don't want to give up until the end. I want to try. Even if I don't succeed, I'll destroy this place. During this time, Jiang Exen held onto Tanggua's hand. He didn't have any other thoughts. He was just afraid that this clone who was as smart and powerful as him would leave. The two of them were the same kind. He believed that she had come here for her own kind. She might even have known the truth of her existence. Just like him, she had developed a desire to resist. It was a pity that there were very few of their kind who could do this. Most of their kind were like animals, kept in captivity in the laboratory. They thought that they were people who had made a mistake and were being transformed in an underground prison. I'm here for our kind, said Li Yundong. That's good. Jiang Exen was very excited. Then I'll wake Gao Feng up and talk to him about something. I've checked his account. There's a lot of money. Tens of thousands of our kind can be supported for a while. Let's arrange for some of our kind to be sent out. I don't think this method will work. Tanggua interrupted Jiang Exen. You said it yourself. Our kind hasn't awakened their consciousness to fight back yet. Since they were born, they thought that they were humans who had made a mistake and were being transformed. The people in the laboratory told them that they had committed a capital crime. If they didn't perform well, they would be taken away. They don't understand the outside world and can't live independently. They might even accelerate the extinction of their own kind. Jiang Exion's eyes dimmed. You're right. Actually, I just don't want to think about it. I could have escaped by myself, but when I thought about how many of my kind were here, I didn't know where to go. Follow me, Tanggua said. Since you don't know where to go, follow me. Wherever I go, you go. Jiang Exion raised his head, his originally dim eyes gradually brightening. Follow you? That's right. Follow me. Wherever I go, you go. You don't know where to go, right? System, I really want to share with the people in the group that the great host has deceived innocent children again. What about our own kind? Tanggua said matter-of-factly, they will all follow me. I will take care of them. A strange feeling arose in Jiang Exion's heart. It seemed that her words meant that she would support him. He didn't know why, but he felt that something was strange. I'm here for you this time. Tanggua started to talk about business. Do you want to follow me? Jiang Exon nodded subconsciously. Peek. Chapter 33:28. It's very difficult to do this. We don't have any foundation outside. Whether it's your identity or mine, we can't use the resources outside to help our own kind get a new life. Jiang Exion said. He had considered these problems long ago. They were extremely difficult, but he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. If it's just the two of us, it's still relatively easy to escape to somewhere. Jiang Exion had also considered this point carefully. If his own kind were as smart as him and had awakened powerful abilities that humans couldn't have, as long as they were careful, they would have a way to survive no matter where they went. If they couldn't go to places with strict population control, then they would go to places with a sparse population and slightly less developed countries. In short, as long as they were normal and had the ability to survive on their own, they wouldn't have to be afraid of these things. However, in this laboratory, it was rare for his own kind to have 4 limbs. Thousands of his kind had all kinds of defects, and some were even unable to take care of themselves. From the beginning, Jiang Exion understood that this was a dead end. It was the kind of dead end where there was no way to get a new life. Since it's so difficult, why did you choose to do this? Tanggua asked. Jiang Exen said, there's a saying among humans, the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. I'm one of the smarter ones among the clones, so of course I have to take on this responsibility. If I'm only allowed to live in anonymity, then my existence would be meaningless. There's no one around me, no goal, no one to care about, there's no meaning in living. You're really a very simple clone. Tangwa commented, this idea is really hot-blooded and naive. System, you're talking as if you're not a clone. You just know more than others, right? Have you seen the movies? Tangwa asked again. She remembered that not long ago, Tangzhou had taken her to see some movies about clones. There were good and bad clones in the movies. But without exception, the clones all had the same goal, which was to live like humans and have a place in the world that belonged to them. Whether it was to integrate with humans or replace them, the clones without a foundation all hoped to have a place to live. The system's intuition told it that the host was teasing him again when she asked if he had seen the movies. Gao Feng has seen it. When I was with him, I would occasionally catch a glimpse of it, but he rarely looks at it. Tangwa smiled. No wonder. If you've watched a movie about cloning, you won't be so naive. You'll have a lot of ideas. You won't think that there's no meaning in living. Instead, you'll look for the meaning of living. For example, Jiang Xen was curious. For example, you will find a way to coexist with humans. Another example is that you will find a way to replace humans. Of course, if you go to the extreme, you might destroy this world and make humans despair. As Tangwa spoke, she observed Jiang Xian's expression. Seeing the other party's shocked expression, she smiled and said, "See, I told you that you're a very simple clone. If I didn't come, you would have been tricked by Gao Feng sooner or later and blasted into smithereens. At that time, you wouldn't even be able to live even if you wanted to. I haven't been out much, so my life experience is definitely not as good as yours. Now that I'm following you, you have to teach me." Chapter 33-29. Tangwa couldn't help but laugh out loud. Okay, now that you are my subordinate, I will definitely teach you the survival skills of humans slowly. When you learn all the survival skills, you won't have to worry about being schemed against by humans anymore. Tangwa said with a smile. Oh right, do you have any thoughts about this world and the humans here? Jiang Xen shook his head seriously. I don't have any special thoughts. From Gao Feng's information, this world is very big. I won't do anything to destroy the world, destroy the humans, or replace their dreams. Firstly, it's not realistic, and secondly, it's not necessary. We clones just need a stable living environment like humans. We just need all the humans to treat us like normal humans. Your hopes may be dashed. They won't treat us like normal humans. Whether they want to get something from us or can live peacefully with us, they won't think that we're the same as them. Jiang Xian was a little distressed. At the same time, he said nervously, "Do you want to destroy this world?" He hesitated, then said, "Can we not destroy it?" System, ha! Are you trying to make me laugh to death? The host hasn't done such extreme things in a long time. Can you tell me why? Tangwa was curious. This clone was interesting. He actually had all kinds of special thoughts. Jiang Xen immediately sat up straight, his expression serious. I once went out with Gao Feng and realized that the outside world is very beautiful. I also saw the outside world from some videos. The outside world is completely different from the laboratory. There are mountains, water, blue sky, and sea. But in the laboratory, there are only empty walls, beds, and dazed people. What I mean is that the outside world is really good. If we can live in such a world, it must be a very happy thing. Why destroy it? My kind, ever since they were born, have never seen the beautiful world outside. One of my wishes is to let them see it too. Jiang Xian's sparkling eyes made Tangwa a little stunned. She hadn't seen such bright and pure eyes in a long time. How could he still yearn for the outside world after experiencing such a thing? He wasn't thinking about destruction, but about contact and integration. But many people can't tolerate our existence. Once people find out about our identity, some bad guys will do all they can to study us. Although there are many nice people, there are also many selfish people like Gao Feng. It's very difficult for us to live peacefully. No matter what, I want to try. Jiang Exen looked at Tang Gua uneasily. Are you not going to take us with you? Because this is very difficult. That timid look, as if he was afraid of being thrown away, really laughed the system. Just a moment ago, he was still as strong, but now, he looked like a little wife. The way he had beaten up Gao Feng earlier must have been an illusion. I said that I would take care of you, so I will. I'm just telling you in advance that it might be a little difficult at the beginning. It's not impossible to survive in the outside world, but if we don't have enough skills, we won't be able to have equal status. Chapter 33:30. So, what's your plan? Jiang Exen was no longer worried when he heard that he wouldn't be left behind. Before this, the thing he was most afraid of was not being able to let his kind see the outside world before they died. Now, he was most afraid that he would be left behind by his smartest and most beautiful kind. Perhaps she was so smart and powerful that he couldn't help but be attracted to her. That was why he didn't want to be separated from her. The first thing we need to do is to take control of the entire laboratory. Tang Gua smiled. This was originally an uninhabited island. It's not within our borders. The island was rented by Ouyang Shishin. First, we need to take control of the laboratory to prevent our kind from being harmed. Then, we need to find a way to get the ownership of the island. This was easy. Other than the islands within their borders, they could buy some islands that belonged to small countries. They just needed to spend money to buy the island. They couldn't let the people in the laboratory go. Since they liked to do such experiments, they could continue to do it for the rest of their lives. I'm confident that I can tie everyone in the laboratory up. Jiang Exen's eyes lit up. Leave it to me. I can bring them all here in 10 minutes. What are you going to do? Tang Gua asked. She had already guessed it. Jiang Exen smiled and spoke in the old voice of Gao Feng. I can turn into Gao Feng and call everyone over. When the time comes, I can close the door and knock them all out. Then I can take down the iron bars in the room and tie them up. It's too easy to do this. Tang Gua had already realized that the iron bars that tied Gao Feng up were removed from the iron chair. In the corner, she saw a broken chair. There was only one chair left. The rest of the chair was on Gao Feng's body. Okay, call them all here. Pei Tianyi doesn't have to be knocked out. I've already taken control of him. He won't dare to do anything. Jiang Exen's eyes lit up. I see. I was wondering why Pei Tianyi suddenly brought an assistant in. He hasn't done personal experiments for a long time. Now that the cloning experiment is on the right track, Gao Feng can't wait for him to not participate in anything and take the credit alone. After getting permission, Jiang Exen immediately sent a notice to all the key members of the laboratory, asking them to gather at his place within 10 minutes. Of course, the reason was that there was a major discovery that required all of them to come over and discuss. Sure enough, no one suspected anything. Gao Feng's authority in the laboratory was too high. Who would have thought that Gao Feng had been kidnapped by his own clone for a long time? In less than 10 minutes, there was a knock on the door. Because the staff arrived one after another, Jiang Exen put on a protective shield for himself. Tang Gua also put on one and stood beside Jiang Exen. Pei Tianyi was the first to arrive. When he saw Tang Gua there, he felt a chill in his heart. He subconsciously glanced at Jiang Exen, who was sitting on the chair. Of course, at this moment, Jiang Exen was the peak in his eyes. Pei Tianyi wondered if Tang Gua had already grasped Gao Feng's weakness. After all, Gao Feng had looked at her suspiciously when they had met earlier. Although Pei Tianyi had his suspicions, he didn't say anything. Chapter 33:31. He was already a fish on the chopping board, the kind that could be casually sliced up by the clone. Why would he care about Gao Feng? Gao Feng was not a person with a conscience. He knew that Gao Feng had used the laboratory to do evil things over the years, but what could he do? He could not do anything. He was not clean to begin with. Perhaps this was retribution given to him by God. That was why Shao Ji had not been able to find a suitable heart. Even if he had the resources, the match would not be right. After saying goodbye to Jiang Exen, Pei Tianyi sat down on one side and became absent-minded. In less than 10 minutes, the main members arrived at Gao Feng's room. They were curious as to why Gao Feng would ask them to gather here. However, they were all under Gao Feng's jurisdiction. They were naturally excited that Gao Feng had made a new discovery. Under Gao Feng's leadership, they had made breakthroughs in experiments one after another and gained huge benefits. Even if they did not like Gao Feng, they were still grateful to him in terms of benefits. Like Gao Feng, they thought that clones were just tools and would not sympathize with them. Over the years, they had cultivated and dissected clones one after another. They were already numb to it. Including themselves, they had also cultivated clones for themselves. Although they did not reach the S-class, they seemed to be the more normal A-class. They cultivated clones for two reasons. First, if their organs were damaged in the future, they would not have to wait for a match. Second, the clones were also free labor. They could help them do things and they did not have to worry about their assistants stealing the results. Ever since there were clones, many people stopped hiring assistants. After all, the fewer people there were in the laboratory, the better. Other than being a little rigid, the clones were very smart. They could learn anything quickly. Professor Gao, what did you discover? Why did you call us to your room in such a hurry? Everyone was there. Jiang Exan did not speak for a long time. Someone could not help but ask. 55 at this moment, Jiang Exan only said to the door, "Close the door." The door was closed. Other than Pei Tianyi, who felt that something was wrong, the others did not have any special reaction. After all, it was a matter of discussion. It was best to close the door. Actually, it's not a big deal. Jiang Exan stood up and walked directly to the nearest person. He chuckled. It's very simple. From today onwards, the laboratory is ours. Professor Gao, what are you talking about? Isn't the laboratory ours? Someone asked in confusion. He felt that Gao Feng was very strange today. Only Pei Tianyi was shocked. If he hadn't received Tang Guo's warning look, he would have shouted out loud. This wasn't Gao Feng's words. He shuddered and shrank into the corner. So what was going on? If this person was not Gao Feng, who else could it be? Suddenly, an idea popped up in his mind. There was already a clone as smart as Tang Guo. How could there not be a second one? Was this Gao Feng's clone? Ah! Pei Tianyi heard a blood-curdling scream. Then he saw Jiang Exan knock out the nearest person with a punch. The others panicked and asked Gao Feng what he was doing. Jiang Exan turned a deaf ear to it and quickly knocked everyone unconscious. Chapter 33-32. In the end, there were only 3 people left standing in the room. They were Tang Guo, Jiang Exan, and Pei Tianyi. Pei Tianyi stood in the corner, trembling. He watched as Jiang Exan dismantled the chairs. He tore the iron bars off the legs, stretched them, and tied the unconscious people up. Finally, Jiang Exan filled a glass with cold water and splashed them awake. When they woke up, they realized that they were tied up by the strong iron bars. They were all dumbfounded. They looked at Jiang Exan and shouted, "Professor Gao, are you crazy?" Pei Tianyi thought, "Idiot. How is this Gao Feng? If Gao Feng is so powerful, he must be invincible. What should we do now?" "Ask them where their clones are and ask them to hand them over," Tang Guo said. "Professor Pei, we still need your cooperation. You should know why you didn't end up like them, right?" Pei Tianyi nodded. "I will do my best to cooperate with you." In this situation, he had no choice but to cooperate. These people were all furious, but they were still afraid of death. Although they didn't know what was wrong with Gao Feng, they still told them where their clones were. These clones were currently working for them. Jiang Exan asked them to call all the clones over and throw them into the secret room. When the clones were all here, Jiang Exan and Tang Guo took off their protective shields. These clones looked very ignorant. They had been instilled with the idea that they were so busy helping out every day that they didn't have time to think about anything else. Also, they subconsciously felt that if they didn't listen, they would end up like those people lying on the operating table. Actually, they had their own consciousness. But compared to death, that consciousness was insignificant. In the next few days, Tang Guo genetically modified the clones of these important members. At the same time, she taught them about humans and clones. She taught them the truth that they should have known. The clones that already had their own consciousness were completely awakened. Jiang Xian also took the genetic modification agent. He was even more powerful than before. Tanguo also taught them how to stimulate their own potential, so that every modified clone would have a smart brain and powerful strength. Pei Tianyi sat in the corner and shivered as he watched the clones happily dismantle the tables, stools, and windows. He felt that a disaster was coming for the human race. Are you planning to go out and tear down the world? Pei Tianyi asked Tanguo, who was doing the experiment. Who knew how this clone could do such things? Tanguo turned around. Jiang Xian doesn't seem to want to destroy the world. My kind doesn't seem to have the same idea. They just want to live in this world. Don't worry, as long as the humans don't provoke us, we won't do anything to them. What if some people come and provoke you? Pei Tianyi heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, based on what had happened during this period of time, he also thought that these clones were not bad. If they were really bad, perhaps his Xiaoji would not be safe and would be treated cruelly. You know more than all the clones. You should know that there are many people like Gao Feng in this world. Moreover, you are too powerful. In all fairness, humans will be afraid. Since ancient times, once something is feared, humans will choose to destroy or control it. Judging from your situation, you won't choose to be controlled again, right? I've already considered this when I did this. Dr. Pei, you are a human. Why are you worried about this? Pei Tianyi said seriously. I just don't want to see more suffering. I know how powerful you are. Once humans anger you, I don't know what will happen to the world. In fact, I also think that this world is more beautiful. I don't want to see it destroyed. Little Tian doesn't want to destroy the world. She's just helping us build a pure land. Jiang Xian walked in and retorted. We don't want much. Little Tian will lead us to it. Jiang Xian walked to Pei Tianyi, grabbed his collar and dragged him out. You look too much. Get out. Don't disturb little Tian's experiment. Otherwise, I'll throw you down to sweep the floor. Little Tian also said that if the humans dare to come in the future, we'll let them do all the chores here. The most disobedient ones will be responsible for cooking for tens of thousands of people every day. The door slammed shut, almost hitting Pei Tianyi's nose. He stared at them in shock. What? Cleaning? Cooking? Chapter 33-33. Seeing the incomplete clones recover one by one, Pei Tianyi wondered what Tanguo used on them. He was very curious, but at the same time, he was very scared. He guessed that Tanguo must have accidentally discovered something that could modify genes. Otherwise, how could those defective BC clones slowly become normal after 100 years? No, it should be said that these clones were smarter and stronger than ordinary humans. He even thought that if there were a certain number of clones in this world instead of less than 100,000, Tanguo would be able to make countless clones unbelievably powerful. Then, it would be possible for clones to replace humans. Professor Pei, I've already treated you very well. I even brought your son here. I gave you these preferential conditions so that you can teach them well, not sit here in a daze. Tanguo walked into the temporary classroom. The reason why Pei Tianyi was the teacher of these clones was that Pei Tianyi still had some conscience. Pei Tianyi reacted with a start. He looked at the clones who were doing their homework and said, I've already arranged homework for them. It should take them half an hour to finish it. You might not understand, but after class, it doesn't matter if your brain is good or not. It's easier to consolidate the knowledge you've learned. In the future, before every class, I'll use the fastest speed to review what they learned the day before. This way, they'll be very strong. Okay, I'll believe you for now. I won't suspect that you're slacking off. However, you should understand the brains of our clones. They're very smart and have a photographic memory. Therefore, you can speed up your lesson appropriately. Pass all the knowledge in your stomach and brain to them. Tanguo didn't pursue the matter of Pei Tianyi being absent-minded. She was most likely thinking about the matter between humans and clones. There was no use thinking about it. Didn't they create so many clones themselves? I see. Pei Tianyi almost lost his voice. Fortunately, he controlled himself quickly. Then I'll give them a test later to see how fast they can keep up. I'll increase the speed appropriately. Their bodies are very strong too. They don't need to rest too much. Professor Pei, don't worry about them being tired. Tangwa suddenly changed her words. Forget it. You're an ordinary human. You should be tired. Just follow the normal routine. Pei Tianyi was speechless. This was the first time he felt inferior and despised since he was born. Pei Tianyi recalled that Tangwa had released some of the key personnel in the laboratory recently. He didn't see where they went for the time being. He asked softly, "Where are they?" "The few who are obedient. I'll let them do odd jobs downstairs first. When they pass the pass, they'll come up and be teachers like you." Tangwa thought for a while and said, "Gao Feng is more stubborn. He's still struggling. Even if he understands, I don't intend to put him in an important position. I've already thought about what he'll do in the future. I'll arrange for him to do disinfection at the lowest level." Pei Tianyi, that's too tragic. A dignified Professor Gao was reduced to doing disinfection at the lowest level. Transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down chapters will continue to be updated on the website. There are no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and recommend the website. Like Transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down. Please bookmark. Female supporting lead, calm down. Chapter 33-34. I wanted to arrange for him to cook, but after thinking about it, I realized that he wasn't very trustworthy. Professor Gao is very knowledgeable. What if he comes up with food? Although our bodies are strong, the toxicity is too strong. We might still have diarrhea. Tangwa's words revealed a meaning to Pei Tianyi. The bodies of the clones were so strong that they were not afraid of many poisons. At most, they would have diarrhea. Pei Tianyi sighed and continued to write the lesson plan. He didn't expect that as a biological doctor who had made countless achievements in this field, he would think that he would be in the laboratory for the rest of his life. In the end, one day, he actually became the teacher of a group of clones and taught them knowledge every day. "Why are you sighing? You're already lucky," Pei Tianyi said. "I'm worried that one day, someone will find you and attack you. Then, you will resist and bring disaster to this world. Then don't worry. We clones like this beautiful world very much. We won't destroy it at the drop of a hat. But if someone comes to destroy our peace, it will indeed be their disaster." Pei Tianyi suddenly felt strange. "Aren't you always by Ouyang Xixin's side? Why isn't Ouyang Xixin anxious when you leave like this? Logically speaking, if he can't find you, he should come to the laboratory." He had wanted to ask this question before. Those days, Tangwa had just taken over this place and was very busy every day. He didn't have the chance to ask. Perhaps he should be glad that his treatment was indeed the best. Now, after teaching this group of clone students every day, after work, he could still return to the suite and play with his son, Xiaozhi. They could play games together, watch TV together, and eat together. This satisfied his wish that he had been unable to fulfill for many years. He could also clearly feel that Xiaozhi was also very happy recently. It was somewhat contradictory. He was actually very grateful to her. He was going crazy. "You don't have to worry about this. Ouyang Xixin won't ask about things here. Even if he wants to ask, he won't find anything. Dr. Pei, the opportunity is in front of you. You've seen those defective clones. Have they returned to normal now? I'll only say this once. Teach them well and you will be rewarded in the future." Pei Tianyi's heart skipped a beat as he thought of a possibility. "You mean, Xiaozhi? Teach the clones here well. Teach them whatever you can teach them. What I want is for you to give them all the knowledge and life experience you have. Do you understand?" Tangwa handed a hard drive to Pei Tianyi. "There are some lessons here. Take a look at them when you have time and summarize them for them." Although it was possible to directly look at the curriculum for clones. However, it was different when it was taught personally. When learning this knowledge, it would also bring along some unique experience. When the time came, she would arrange for these clones to go out and see the world. Pei Tianyi held the hard disk in a daze, still thinking about what Tangwa had said. Did she mean that Xiaozhi also had a chance to repair the defect in his heart like a normal person? If that was the case, he would have done it. Compared to working for Ouyang Xixin and Gao Feng, he felt that working for these clones was not as burdensome. Because until now, the clones hadn't done anything to the people in the laboratory. Like to wear it quickly, Supporting female lead, calm down. Please collect it. Wear it quickly. Supporting female lead, calm down. Chapter 33-35. At most, they were asked to do the dirtiest and most tiring things. They didn't even do the simplest humiliation. Pei Tianyi suddenly laughed mockingly. Most of the clones were like a blank piece of paper. They had never been to the big dye vat outside. How would they know what humiliation and mockery were? Perhaps, the clones were now thinking that they could finally live peacefully and were happy about these things. About half a year has passed. Tangwa has been staying in this secret laboratory all this time. In this half a year, she and Jiang Exen had completely turned the secret laboratory into their base. At the same time, she had asked Qi Shao for many array discs and placed them around the island. There were defensive arrays, psychedelic needles, and offensive arrays. In any case, the entire island was well protected. It was impossible for a mere few tens of thousands of clones to replace the entire human race. From the beginning, she had never thought of doing this. The world belonged to everyone, whether it was humans, clones, or all the creatures that existed in the world. She was a person who didn't like war. Because of her identity as a clone, what she wanted to do was to build a pure land for the clones. She wanted them to live in this beautiful world where no one would bully them. At the same time, the smart and powerful clones had also used half a year to dig out all the secrets of Pei Tianyi. The clones had everything that Pei Tianyi had control over. Pei Tianyi felt dispirited. When the stubborn main members of the laboratory finally thought it through, they could only get a job to do odd jobs. They were shocked to find that the clones in the laboratory were not only smart, but also capable of all kinds of things. Some experiments could be completed easily in their hands. Not only that, they could also draw inferences. In the end, Gao Feng also compromised. He had thought that it wouldn't be so easy for the clones to survive in this world. After so long, Ouyang Shixin would have discovered some problems. In the end, when he walked out of the secret room, he was directly thrown to the lowest level. The clones now understood their birth and the sins that Gao Feng had done to them. They didn't treat Gao Feng well. Originally, Tangwa had planned to let Gao Feng disinfect the laboratory. Later, Jiang Exen collected the opinions of all the clones. Everyone thinks that it's too easy for him to disinfect, Jiang Exen said seriously. Jiang Exen said seriously. They discussed for a few days and came up with a better idea. What is it? Let Gao Feng collect the trash every day and dispose of all the trash, Jiang Exen said. I think it's a good idea too. This should be the dirtiest and most tiring job. Tangwa thought about it for a while. Wasn't the trash here just the toilet pail in each clone's house? After all, they ate in the same hall, and the rooms were where they slept. Occasionally, they would go outside to bask in the sun, play some other games, and even grow vegetables outside. Tangwa planned to bring them out to see the world after they slowly adapted to this world. Alright, then let him collect and dispose of the garbage every day. When Gao Feng found out that he was arranged to empty the toilets of these clones, wash their toilets, and deal with their feces every day, he was so angry that his nose became crooked. I won't do it. Gao Feng shouted. Don't go overboard. Chapter 33-36. Jiang Exen said, It's up to you. There's no free lunch here. Everyone wants to eat and has to do something. Your task is to deal with this. If you don't do it, you won't have anything to eat today. Anyway, I'm not doing it. Instead of doing these things, he might as well not compromise and be tied up and locked in a dark room. Then wait to starve to death. If you starve to death, we'll throw you into the freezer. When the time comes, we'll deal with all of you. Actually, after half a year, the dead clones in the freezer had already been dealt with. The freezer level had also been sealed and would not be opened again. Jiang Exen did not care about Gao Feng. He still had to go out to sea with Tangwa today. It was said that they were going to talk to the country that owned this island and plan to invest in buying it. When they really bought this island, it would be the home of all their clones. Shao Tian, do you have enough money? Jiang Exen knew that it was not easy to buy an island. Not to mention the procedures, just the books alone would require a lot of money. If it's not enough, we'll work hard to earn more. Now that all of our kind have returned to normal, it should be easy for everyone to earn money together. It's enough. We can buy it. Don't worry. The country that owned this island was not considered a big country. If she asked for a high price, the other party would be more than willing to sell it to her. Although the island was not big, it was not useful for a small country like this. The main thing was that this island was not suitable for farming at all. The population of this country was small to begin with, and no one was willing to move to such a remote place. Jiang Xian's eyes were a little happy. Then let's go. To be honest, although he had gone out with Gao Feng before, he was still in a daze at the beginning. He did not observe this world carefully. After we buy this island, we'll set up a country called Clone Country. How about that? Tangwa said. Our people are all soldiers. We'll trade with the surrounding small countries. With our geographical location, no one will find out. Okay, Xiao Tian, whatever you say. Clone Country, all the members will be very happy. At that time, Xiao Tian will be the king and we'll all be your people. With you around, your people will definitely live a safe and stable life. Jiang Xen was so excited that he blurted out a series of words. Although he didn't know why the people outside couldn't discover their location, it was definitely the doing of the omnipotent Little Tian. He knew that Little Tian was the most powerful clone in the world. She was the most outstanding and powerful one. Not only that, there are many secret laboratories in this world that are doing human cloning experiments. When our cloning country is up and running, one more thing to do is to destroy those laboratories and protect our own kind. Jiang Xen suddenly said, Little Tian, I have an idea. If one day there are no more members of the clone nation in this world, does that mean that no one will dare to do human cloning experiments anymore? Although clones were clones, they were naturally different from humans. They had almost no reproductive ability. Moreover, genes that had been replicated could not be replicated again. In other words, using the genes of the clones would not create new clones. Whether it was Tangwa or Jiang Xen, neither of them had ever thought of creating a clone. Xen, you seem to be thinking too far ahead. Chapter 33-37. There's nothing wrong with thinking more, Jiang Xian said. Professor Pei, you're right. Although this world is beautiful, I don't wish for more of my kind to be born. But before each of our kind is born, many of our kind may have died, and we don't know how much pain they have to go through. Little Tian, although we yearn for the beauty of this world and like to live in peace, I have to say that our birth was a tragedy, said Jiang Xen. Jiang Xen said, if Little Tian hadn't come to this world, I might have already ceased to exist. Jiang Xian wasn't a fool. On the contrary, he was very smart. After more than half a year, he had realized what this world was like and what human beings were like. At the beginning, he couldn't have won against Gao Feng. If he had disregarded everything and only wanted to destroy, he might have been able to do something. But from the beginning, he had never wanted to destroy this place. It wasn't this world that couldn't tolerate them, but some of the people living in this world. System. Dear host, although he's right, I still think that he's a little silly. Dear host, I suspect that this is his scheme. He's deliberately making himself silly so that he can seek your protection and win your sympathy. He was really shameless. Based on that guy's character, he couldn't possibly be so silly. But now, he was acting silly so easily. Wasn't he just trying to make the host pity him? Don't you think he's succeeded? Tangwa smiled faintly. He's cuter if he's a little silly. System, fine, he said nothing. All right, this isn't a scheme. It's more like he's doing what he likes. Fine. As long as the host is happy, I'll quietly eat my food. Tangwa brought Jiang Xian to buy the island. It went very smoothly. That country was poor and backward. Suddenly, someone came to buy the island which had no use for it and was only rented to others. Of course, they were happy. They even gave Tangwa the original lease agreement. A few days later, Tangwa and Jiang Xian returned to the island with the specialties of this small country. Then she arranged tasks for everyone on the island. Periodically, she would send a group of people to study abroad. In addition, she invited craftsmen from the surrounding small countries to start building the island. After looking at the geographical location, She asked Qi Xiao for a lot of array discs. They were all used to reinforce the entire island, in case some natural disasters happened and the entire island couldn't survive. After that, she planned to build a city above and below based on the previous laboratory. She would be able to see the white clouds above and the sea below. Because of the reinforcement of the formation, there was no need to worry about the geographical environment. Qi Xiao was an immortal. The array disk he refined could last for hundreds or even thousands of years. By that time, the clones would be almost extinct and there would be no need for this place. Perhaps, many years later, this place would be called a miracle by the later generations. They built the underground first. After all, building a house wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. He had to take it slow. At this time, Jiang Exen suggested that Tangguo establish a clone country. 2 years had already passed. The underground city was almost finished. There should be a strong formation. The craftsman's construction was also very bold. In many places, they could even see the world in the sea from the room. I'm going out to do something now. I need to make some arrangements here. The reason why I asked the craftsman not to build the city in the sky outside is to do this. Unknowingly, it was almost the day of the original owner's surgery. Of course, she couldn't replace all her body organs in a regular hospital. The medical surgery equipment was already very mature in the outside world. Ouyang Shixin couldn't wait. He wanted to bring the female lead and her to the laboratory to do the experiment. I'll go with you, Jiang Xian said immediately. Tangguo patted his head. Be good and wait here. I'll be back soon. You can't miss out on this. Chapter 33-38. 3 days later, Tangguo returned to the original city. The puppet that had replaced her in the villa was taken in by her. As soon as she returned to this place, she clearly felt that there were more people around the villa. Even the frequency of Tang Zhou taking her out to play was relatively less. The most important thing was that she had felt that there were more people following them secretly. After she returned, the puppet gave her a pocket watch, saying that it was a gift from Ouyang Shixin for her birthday this year. As soon as the pocket watch fell into her hand, the system quickly warned that there was a bug and a tracker in the pocket watch. Host, this Ouyang Shixin is really a thief. It has been several years, but he has not let go of Tang Zhou. He is afraid that Tang Zhou will ruin it. This is Ouyang Shixin. He suspects one thing, suspects a person, and will not easily dispel his concerns. And in the past few years, Tang Zhou often took me out to play. He is a more emotional person. Ouyang Shixin should not be able to guarantee that Tang Zhou will not be soft-hearted to me. When the time comes, he will not have the heart to see me die and let me go. Tangguo chuckled. How would he know? Tang Zhou has been talking about leaving every day for the past few years. His mouth is already sore from all the talking, but the puppets I left behind have always been silent in response. If it was another one, even if it was a real puppet, Tang Zhou might have succeeded in persuading it. Ouyang Shixin was determined to let the female lead try the new medical surgical equipment and perform the organ replacement surgery. For Ouyang Shixin's persistence, Tangguo was too lazy to entangle with him. In this person's eyes, to save the female lead, he would not think about the consequences, let alone the pain of the puppet. Therefore, to entangle with Ouyang Shixin and reason with him was playing the lute to a cow. It was useless at all. From the beginning, she did not intend to use it like this. The system did not understand. It could not help but ask a doubt in its heart. Host, why did many small worlds in the past use the tactic of killing the male lead? Because people are different. Some people can use this method to abuse them, but some people will not. Ouyang Shixin is the most indifferent person. In his eyes, except for the female lead, no one can replace her. What's more, I'm already a clone created from the female lead's genes. He's a rather restrained person. He definitely won't allow himself to have any thoughts about a clone, so the pig's heart strategy won't work on him. If you want to torture Ouyang Shixin, you just have to stab his heart. The system was shocked. But the meat on the tip of his heart is the female lead? Host, you won't torture the female lead, right? To be honest, in the entire plot, the female lead didn't seem to have done anything bad. Instead, she paid for Ouyang Shixian's actions and lived a life of pain. Of course, please don't misunderstand. I'm not standing on the female lead's side. I'm just analyzing it. But if you want to torture him, I have no objections. Perhaps it was because he had spoken up for too many female protagonists in many worlds, causing him to feel a little guilty. He was afraid that his host would recall those unpleasant memories. He couldn't bear to think about how stupid he had been in the past. How could he be so stupid? Which idiot created him? Stupid and inflexible. His previous existence was completely a big trouble for the host. Transmigration, female lead, calm down, no mistakes will continue to be updated on the website. There are no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and recommend the website. Like transmigration, female lead, calm down, please bookmark, transmigration, female lead, calm down. Chapter 33-39. I didn't want to abuse the female lead. That's one thing. I don't have any grudges with her. On the contrary, she's a very good person. The system looked at Tanghua, who had a warm smile on her face and was cold and quiet. It felt a little happy. However, I think her body is very delicate, so I have to hide her for the time being. Tanghua's next sentence almost made the system spit out. It thought that the host had turned over a new leaf. I don't care what she does to Ouyang Shixian. I'm going to do something to Ouyang Shixian now, and no one can stop me. Abusing Ouyang Shixian was the main storyline in this world. System, okay. That night, Ouyang Shixian still cared about Tanghua as usual. When it was about time, he gave her a glass of milk with sleeping pills. In fact, with Tanghua's current physical condition, ordinary sleeping pills had no effect on her. After she fell asleep, Ouyang Shixian went to the study. He didn't choose to sleep. Instead, he contacted the laboratory. Before Tanghua returned, she had arranged everything in the laboratory. Jiang Xian knew that Ouyang Shixian would contact him. Because he was worried about Tanghua's safety, he stayed by the phone. This was the only special line in the laboratory that hadn't been removed. It was specially left for Ouyang Shixian. When the phone rang, Jiang Xian quickly picked it up. Of course, he used Gao Feng's old voice. Dr. Gao. Is it Mr. Ouyang? It's so late. Why are you calling? Is there something wrong with the clone? Jiang Xian imitated Gao Feng's tone and talked to Ouyang Shixian. This was because he often stayed by Gao Feng's side and learned this. Tanghua didn't tell him the specifics. She just arranged what Jiang Xian had to do. There's no problem with the clone. It's fine now. Ouyang Shixian replied, I'm calling you tonight because of the medical equipment. After thousands of uses, it has matured. I've asked many people to discuss it. It should be able to help Xiaogua change her organs. This matter can't be done outside, so it won't cause an uproar. Ouyang Shixian put out the cigarette and continued, I think the laboratory is good. When the time comes, we will perform the surgery in the laboratory. I will arrange for someone to come over. When the time comes, I will need Dr. Gao's help to cooperate. The laboratory is indeed a good place. Once the surgery is over, it will be easier to deal with the aftermath. Jiang Xian imitated Gao Feng's tone and quickly agreed to this matter. He asked Ouyang Shixian for the specific time. Ouyang Shixian said that he would tell him in 2 days. At that time, he would arrange for someone to come over in advance and ask him to help take care of it. As for the female lead, she could only be transported to the laboratory at the very last moment. The female lead's life vessel was actually placed in Ouyang Shixian's office building. Who would have known that there was a secret room in Ouyang Shixian's office that hid such a big secret? After hanging up, Ouyang Shixian called Tang Zhou again. It's already so late, what's the matter? If you're warning me that I can't take her out to play, then I might not be able to do it. You want her life. All I can do now is to let her see more of the world. Hearing Tang Zhou's cold words, Ouyang Shixian was relieved. Thinking of his purpose, he said directly, I'm going to arrange the surgery for Xiaogua. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 33-40. What? Although he knew that the day was coming, Tang Zhou still didn't expect it to be so fast. He thought that since he was reborn, he should be able to change his fate. Who would have thought that the hurdle that he couldn't pass in this life was still Tangwa? He wanted to help her escape, but she had been very silent for the past 2 or 3 years and didn't communicate with him much. He could only worry on the side and couldn't do anything. So fast. Is it fast? Little Zhou, we've been waiting for almost 10 years. Do you think the speed is fast? Did you get along with that clone and you can't bear to let her die? Don't you want your sister to come back to life? Ouyang Shixian, don't talk nonsense. Of course, I want my sister to wake up. I just don't agree with this cruel method. Tang Zhou felt that the biggest mistake of their family was to put his sister with Ouyang Shixian, so he couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. Whether you agree or not, it's a foregone conclusion. It won't be long before they can have the operation. Ouyang Shixian said coldly, what I mean is, take her out recently. Don't go too far. If it's too far, I won't be able to find her for a while. I might misunderstand something. Little Zhou, don't make me angry. I've been waiting for your sister to wake up for 10 years. No one can stop me. Listening to you, if you want me to stop you, you have to use some special means, or even kill me. Tang Zhou said sarcastically, similarly, if my parents stop you, will you be merciless and get rid of all these obstacles? Ouyang Shixian was silent for a minute and said, if it really comes to that point, maybe. I said that no one can stop you. You lunatic, selfish man. Have you ever considered me for my sister? I've thought about it, but more than anything, what I can't bear is losing her. Even if she hates me, I don't want to lose her. As long as she stays by my side alive, everything is fine. Tang Zhou was so angry that he laughed. Ouyang Shixian, actually, I don't think you're suitable for my sister at all. Your personalities are not suitable. You're too selfish. Being with you, tolerance, and sacrifice is only her. Okay, it's useless to say this now. From now on, you can take her out, but you can't go too far. When the date of the operation is set, don't take her to eat junk food. Tang Zhou was so angry that he hung up the phone. He didn't want to talk to Ouyang Shixian anymore. He didn't know what to say to this lunatic. The next day, Tang Zhou came to pick up Tangwa again. Indeed, they didn't go too far. They only went to the hills around the city to take a walk and enjoy the scenery. The signal from Tangwa's pocket watch had been blocked by the system. She could feel that Tang Zhou wanted to say something to her again. Last night, I received a call from Ouyang Shixian. He has already planned to arrange the surgery for you and my sister. You should have thought about what to do next. There are more and more people behind us. When the time comes, you may not be able to leave even if you want to. Tangwa looked up and suddenly said to Tang Zhou with a smile, I don't know where to go. System, you're lying to the child again. There are many beautiful places in this world that are worth going to. Don't you think the scenery of the various countries that I showed you are not good? Tang Zhou said very urgently. Like to wear fast, supporting female lead, calm down, please collect. Wear fast. Supporting female lead, calm down. Chapter 33:41. It's good, but I can't fit in. Ever since you told me the truth, I suddenly realized that I don't fit in with this world. I used to have such a strange feeling. I always felt that my surroundings were strange. Later, when you told me, I understood that it wasn't the surroundings that were strange, but me. No matter what, isn't it good to live? Tang Zhou scratched his head in annoyance. Why are you so conflicted? In our words, being alive is better than anything else. As long as you're alive, you can always find a goal to live for. You don't have it now because your eyes can only see this small place and only see Ouyang Shixian. When you go out and see, you'll know how beautiful this world is. All his patience in his life had been fed to the dogs here. He had been nagging for 2 or 3 years, but she still hadn't found a goal to live for. This was really going to anger him to death. It doesn't matter to you whether I live or not. In fact, you don't have to care about these things. Tang Zhou, from the moment I told you the truth, I was destined to care about this. You should make a decision as soon as possible. At the last moment, I'm not sure if I can take you away. However, This time, he would think of a way to secretly take her away and settle her somewhere so that Ouyang Shixian couldn't find her. As the days passed, Tang Gua still hadn't made a decision. Tang Zhou was very anxious. Just as he was about to ask Tang Gua out and secretly take her away when she wasn't paying attention, Tang Gua actually refused to go out to play. "You really don't want to come out?" Tang Zhou almost pulled out a bunch of his hair. He had arranged everything with great difficulty, but she actually didn't want to go out. How could she be so stubborn? Tang Gua's lips curled into a smile. Of course, she couldn't go out at this time. She still had to go through all the procedures. If she went out, wouldn't Tang Zhou ruin it? "I don't want to go out recently." "I'm a little convinced. Do you know that you'll lose your life like this?" Tang Zhou was about to cry. Since she chose to be the same as before, but was more difficult than before, was he, a reborn person, useless? The heavens were punishing him and wanted him to experience the pain again. "But I don't want to go anywhere." "System, silly boy, host is waiting to torture Ouyang Shixian. If you leave, won't you be unable to torture him?" Silly and adorable. "Do you still remember the method I taught you?" Tang Zhou took a deep breath and said, "Do you practice every day? Do you feel any special power?" Yes, not only did Tang Zhou think of a way to help Tang Gua escape, he also looked at many unorthodox methods to help her stimulate the powerful strength in her body. "Yes, I feel that my strength has increased by a lot. Earlier, I accidentally crushed the glass and was shocked." Tang Gua felt that she had made Tang Zhou so anxious these past few days, so she decided to give him a candy to relax his mood. It wasn't bad for the female lead to have a younger brother who was so considerate towards her. Tang Zhou didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he still said, "All right, I won't ask you out for a while, but remember to practice this kind of power every day. Remember, you can't let Ouyang Shixian find out." "All right. If that day comes and you can't bear the pain, then run away. Run away, call me, and I'll arrange a new place for you." Tang Zhou had already accepted his fate. "In addition, you have to promise me one thing. No matter how angry you are in the future, you can hurt those who hurt you, but please don't use this kind of power to affect innocent people." In fact, he was just a selfish person. If she lived well, then her sister could live well. Chapter 33-42. After hanging up the phone, Tang Zhou didn't know what to do. He felt that the room was very stuffy, so he went to the living room. Unexpectedly, there were two people sitting in the living room. It was Father Tang and Mother Tang. Tang Zhou asked in surprise, "Dad, Mom, it's so late. Why you here? Why aren't you sleeping or turning on the lights? Why did Zhou come out?" Mother Tang asked. "Just now, brother-in-law talked to me on the phone and said that he would arrange the operation for sister soon. Dad, Mom, I'm not happy, so I can't sleep. I want to come out to get some fresh air. What about you? Did you know about this too?" Father Tang sighed. "Shixian also informed us. Your mother and I also feel a little suffocated and can't sleep. Since you can't sleep, then cancel the operation," Tang Zhou said. "You've seen it in the past 2 years. She's also a living person. She's not something that can be casually taken. Doing this operation is equivalent to exchanging her life for sisters. Zhou, things have come to this point. There's no way to save it. If I could do it all over again, maybe I would have stopped Shixian from being your sister's clone from the beginning," Father Tang said. "Things have started, and there's no turning back. Even if we object, it's useless. The power is not with us now. Once Shixian makes up his mind, no one can stop him. Zhou, go to sleep. Don't think too much." Mother Tang stood up. "We're going back to our rooms too." The two refused to talk about this topic, and Tang Zhou didn't force them. He knew what they were thinking. They hoped that their sister would wake up, but they also felt a lot of guilt. But no matter how much guilt they felt, it couldn't be compared to letting their sister wake up. If they knew the truth behind it, would they stop it? He couldn't say these things. If he said it, the two of them would probably think that he was making up a story. A month later, the date of the operation was set. Tang Gua received news from Jiang Xian that the people arranged by Ouyang Shixian had already moved into the laboratory. The surgical equipment and sterile room were all ready. Now, She was just waiting for the female lead to be sent for the operation. It should be in 2 days. Tang Zhou called her almost every day to ask if she had figured it out. When he confirmed that she still didn't leave, he asked her how her strength training was going. He was so worried. Before she was sent to the laboratory, Father Tang and Mother Tang came to pick her up for dinner. The reason was that the family had not gathered together for a long time. Mrs. Tang had cooked a lot of delicious dishes and kept putting food on Tang Nuan's plate at the dining table. Tang Zhou was more indifferent. From time to time, he would show a mocking look. They wanted her life. What could a table full of food make up for? Nothing could. Chapter 33-43. Dr. Gao, how is it? Is there anything wrong with her body? Ouyang Xixin asked. You should understand what I mean. Are there any problems with her organs? Jiang Xen was very unhappy, but he still had to continue acting. He couldn't ruin little Tian's decision. There's nothing wrong with her body. The organs in her body are perfectly developed. It's okay to perform the operation now, Jiang Xen answered. Mr. Ouyang, are you ready? If you want the operation, arrange it as soon as possible. Okay, I'll get someone to arrange it right away. Ouyang Xixin was a little excited. He didn't say anything more to Jiang Xen and turned to leave. Seeing that Ouyang Xixin was about to leave, Jiang Xen suddenly said, Mr. Ouyang. Dr. Gao, do you have any other questions? If it's about the laboratory, we can talk about it in detail after the operation. Ouyang Xixin thought that Jiang Xen was going to talk about some new projects in the laboratory. Once there was a new project, it would definitely involve money. In this regard, Gao Feng had never disappointed him. Since there was a new project, he could definitely give him a result. However, the most important thing now was to arrange the operation. Everything else was not so important. Dr. Gao? It's like this, Mr. Ouyang. Jiang Xen continued. Tanggue's one clone is the most perfect clone in the laboratory. It can be said that she is no different from a human. She is a living human. Once all the organs in her body are removed, she will die. We don't have any conditions to let her continue to live without all her organs. Also, the operation this time is very risky. If it fails, it means that 2 lives will be sacrificed. Jiang Xen saw that the excitement on Ouyang Xixin's face had faded and said, Mr. Ouyang, you still have to be careful about this matter. He just wanted to remind Ouyang Xixin that little Tian's life was very important. Once he chose to continue the operation, he would be angry. If he was angry, the consequences would be very serious. Dr. Gao, this is not like you. A smile appeared on Ouyang Xixin's cold face. Let me guess why Dr. Gao is so concerned about this matter today. Is it because you know that Xiaoguo is very important to me, so you are afraid that if the operation fails, you will vent your anger on the laboratory? The surgery won't fail. Ouyang Xixin said, I've been waiting for this day for almost 10 years. Professor Gao, there's nothing wrong with the clone. You've said it yourself. Her organs are very healthy and well developed. I believe in your ability. There won't be any problems with the surgical equipment. After all, it's already being sold in large quantities in the market. The more advanced hospitals around the world have all introduced this set of surgical equipment. There was once a case where 2 organs were replaced at once. The patient is recovering very well now. Ouyang Xixin's voice gradually became cold. According to the data, this set of equipment can basically perform the surgery perfectly. In the past 6 months, there have not been any cases of failure. All right, I'm going to bring Xiaoguo over. You guys get ready here. I want to perform the surgery as soon as possible. Xiaoguo has been in the life vessel for a long time. She must be very anxious and wants to come out to see the outside world. Like to wear it quickly. Supporting female lead, please calm down. Wear it quickly. Supporting female lead, calm down. Chapter 33-44. Jiang Xen didn't stop Ouyang Xixin. He understood one thing from the other party's words. Nothing was more important than the person he cared about. Other people's lives weren't lives. They were sacrificed for them. Jiang Xian's face was cold as he slowly walked back to the room. Under normal circumstances, Tanggua should be in a coma right now, but she is currently eating in Jiang Xian's room. She felt that Jiang Xian wasn't very happy. She raised her head and asked, "Who provoked you? You don't seem very happy." "Ouyang Xixin. What's wrong with him? I want to mess with him." Jiang Xian was very straightforward. "He looks like he deserves a beating." His words are even worse. Xiao Tian, let Ouyang Xixin go and dump the feces. It wasn't that Jiang Xian didn't want to think of other ways to torture people. However, the clone country was only so big. The dirtiest and most tiring job was probably doing this. Moreover, with Ouyang Xixin's identity, if he really did this, it would be a humiliation to him. That's too easy for him. Tanggua ate her food. "Let's wait a little longer. Haven't I arranged everything? When this is over, we'll go and save our companions in other places. We'll ignore Ouyang Xixin." Jiang Xian was interested. "I've already received a lot of information. The people I sent out found many secret laboratories. Preliminary estimates show that there are at least a few thousand of our kind alive. These were all calculated from the data sent back from the base. Xiao Tian, how should we deal with the people in the laboratory who are researching clones? How do you want to deal with them?" Jiang Xian said, "Why don't we capture them all and let them work? After all, we clones lack common sense and need humans to take care of us." Jiang Xian said with a serious face. "Many clones are blank, like a baby." Tanggua was speechless. "System, like a little baby." Even though he was 1.8 meters tall, he was still able to say such a thing. However, he felt that the great host would agree to this. "You have the final say. Aren't you the first minister of our clone country? You can make the arrangements for these things." Originally, she wanted Jiang Xian to be the king of the clone country. However, he was very persistent and insisted that she be the queen. "No matter what, I have to discuss it with you. Xiao Tian is the king of our clone nation." Jiang Xian was very stubborn about this. "No matter what I do, I can't go beyond you. I have to listen to you. I can only do it with your permission. Otherwise, it will be a mess." "Then if I asked you to slap yourself, would you do it?" Tanggua joked. Jiang Xian asked innocently, "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I slap myself? If little Tian really wants to see it, you can just slap yourself twice. The body of a clone is very strong. Even if you use your fists, you won't be able to hurt it. Xian, you're an individual. You can't just do whatever I say. You have to live for yourself. If I told you to die, would you really agree?" Although Tanggua felt that Jiang Xian was a little silly and cute, she was a little worried that he couldn't get rid of his identity as a clone and couldn't find his own direction in life. In fact, many clones would be in such a situation. Therefore, she had to set a goal for all the members of the clone country. "Little Tian won't let me die." After taking off the protective shield, Jiang Xian's face was revealed. His eyes were still clear. "Calm down. We're fast." Chapter 33:45. Soon, it was the day of the operation. When he couldn't practice Tanggua, Tang Zhou knew that things were about to start. He went to Ouyang Xixin's company and saw him. He wanted to ask where the operation was, but he didn't expect Ouyang Xixin to tie him up. "Brother-in-law, what do you mean?" Tang Zhou understood that Ouyang Xixin was afraid that he would ruin things and planned to lock him up temporarily. This had never happened before because the original him thought that the clone had left, so he did not care about this matter. "Little Zhou, you are a smart person." Ouyang Xixin put out the cigarette. "You stay here obediently and wait for me to bring Xiaogua back to see you. Don't make trouble." Tang Zhou was silent for half a minute before saying, "Brother-in-law, if things succeed, there may be a lot of sequelae. It will especially affect my sister and make her unhappy for the rest of her life. What should we do?" "There is nothing to be unhappy about. As long as she is alive, she will be happy." Ouyang Xixin waved his hand. "Take him away. Xiaogua has been waiting for me for a long time." "Ouyang Xixin, you are an extremely selfish person." "I have always been. As long as she can wake up, I can do anything, even if the whole world is destroyed. Unreasonable. Tang Zhou was so angry that his face turned red. Being with someone like you, my sister will never be happy. She will live a very tiring life. I will make her happy. Ouyang Xixin had already left. Tang Zhou was also locked up in the office building and watched by his people. Walking out of the office building, Ouyang Xixin met the family Tang couple again. The couple looked at each other and finally said something to Ouyang Xixin. It was Father Tang who said, "Xixin, if you are not sure, then forget about it. In fact, Xiaoguo is also fine like this. Who knows, we might be able to develop a medicine that can restore her organs to normal in the future and bring her back to life." Yes, Xixin, if it is too risky, then forget about the operation. It is really good. We are already satisfied that we can see Xiaoguo from time to time. If there is a problem, 2 people will die. Ouyang Xixin smiled and said comfortingly, "Dad, Mom, don't worry. The operation will be successful. I know you must be soft-hearted, but you have to understand that the clone was created for Xiaoguo. She had been living a good life all these years. She was happier than most people. Now, it was time for her to sacrifice herself for Xiaoguo. Go ahead and wait for my good news." The 2 of them couldn't stop Ouyang Xixin. They could only watch as he sat in the car and disappeared before their eyes. They stood there for a long time and finally sighed. They supported each other and went back. Ouyang Xixin took some people and moved the life vessel to the laboratory on the island. Life was easily put into the operating room that had been prepared at the beginning. He had also put on a sterile gown and was ready to watch from the sidelines. "Mr. Ouyang, drink a glass of water first. You can't go out before the surgery is over. It will take a long time, and your body might not be able to take it." He only drank a cup of water. Ouyang Xixin did not have any doubts and drank it directly. 20 minutes later, Tangguo was pushed into the operating room. The life vessel where the female lead lived was also opened. Under Ouyang Xixin's eyes, the operation began. Chapter 3346. He stared at the scene in front of him without blinking. He didn't want to miss a single detail. His level of concentration was no less than that of a doctor who was using surgical equipment. The operation lasted for a day and a night. The female lead's organs were finally replaced. Ouyang Xixin was just a spectator, but he felt mentally exhausted. He wanted to immediately fall asleep. When he heard the doctor in charge of the operation give him an okay sign, he finally relaxed and sat down. The corner of his lips raised into a smile that couldn't be stopped. "Miss Tang's condition is very good now, but we need to observe for a while to see if there will be any adverse reactions later. If there are no problems after a week of observation, then it proves that all the organs are in harmony with Miss Tang's body. There won't be any big effects." "Very good," Ouyang Xixin replied. At this time, Jiang Exian spoke again. Of course, the lines were arranged for him by Tangguo. "Mr. Ouyang, what about the clone?" Jiang Exian pretended to be pitiful, as if it was a pity for such an excellent clone. If little Tian didn't ask him to ask this question, he wouldn't have said such annoying words. Just hearing it made him feel disgusted. Ouyang Xixin came back to his senses and said indifferently, "How do you usually deal with it?" "Throw it into the freezer and wait for permission to destroy it." Under the protective mask was Jiang Exian's cold face. How many of his kind were dealt with like this? Ouyang Xixin didn't care and said, "Then we'll deal with it as before. You can do whatever you want. Xiaoguo already has what she needs. The rest will be left to you." The more casual Ouyang Xixin's attitude was, the angrier Jiang Exian became. "I just found that she still has a breath of life. She hasn't died yet. It seems like she's still alive." Jiang Exian continued to say the lines arranged for him by Tangguo. If little Tian didn't ask him to say it, he wouldn't have said such disgusting words. "Her vitality seems to have reached a certain point. I think we can stay and observe for a while to see if there are any new discoveries. Since Dr. Gao has such an interest, then I'll leave it to you." Ouyang Xixin was in a very good mood. "As for the funding, we'll talk about it in a few days." He thought that Jiang Exian kept saying this to ask for funding. To be fair, Although Gao Feng had done a lot of things behind his back that were beneficial to him, he had also brought him a lot of benefits. There were many products in his company, and Gao Feng was one of them. Funding the laboratory was a win-win situation. Gao Feng was a smart person and knew what to do to last longer. Hence, it wasn't that he didn't know about some things. He just turned a blind eye to them. Now that Xiaoguo's surgery was a success, he was in a better mood. Naturally, he could tolerate Gao Feng's thoughts. I'll let you know if there's any important news. Jiang Exin finished the last disgusting line, and the horn people hurriedly took him away. Little Tian, I've completed all the tasks you gave me. Thank you for your hard work, Exit. It's just a small matter. But little Tian, what did you do to make them believe that the surgery was over? Yes, he did not perform any surgeries for the past day and night. That day and night of surgery was just an illusion. Like wearing clothes fast, female supporting character, calm down, please collect. Wearing clothes fast, female supporting character, calm down. Chapter 3347. In the operating room, there were only two people. One was Ouyang Shixin, and the other was him. The reason why he stayed inside was to say the lines that Tangguo arranged for him. Everything else, including the people and scenes that appeared, including the shocking surgery, was just an illusion. If he didn't know that it was an illusion, he would have thought that it was real like Ouyang Shixin. It's a special ability. There were too many things involved in this matter. Tangguo said it casually, but she didn't expect Jiang Exin to look at her as if she had expected it. Sure enough, I knew that Xiao Tian was the best clone in the world. The special ability that she awakened was always so strong. Only Xiao Tian is qualified to be the king of the clone country and is loved by all of our people. You are the only one who can protect these people. Tangguo, system, I don't know when she awakened the ability to boast. This guy's special ability is also very good. Xiao Tian, what should we do next? Tangguo pointed at the hospital gown on her body. Next, we'll have to put on a show with Ouyang Shixin and let him experience the pain of his heart being torn apart. If she directly attacked Ouyang Shixin, a crazy person like him shouldn't feel pain, right? She had already planned how to torture the other party. If she wanted to torture, she would torture the other party's heart. Axin, help me take care of that person. The medicine you gave her has to be taken little by little. Take 1/20th a day and take it separately for 20 days. She has been in a deep sleep for a long time. Too much medicine won't be good for her body. I remember. Jiang Exin was actually not very happy, and his heart was very conflicted. Without that person, there would be no little Tian. But it was because of that person that little Tian suffered so much and almost died. Fortunately, Xiao Tian was powerful and awakened a very strong power. After reminding Jiang Exin, Tangguo went to the room where the female lead was supposed to be. Yes, the role she was going to play was the female lead. After a while, the female lead slowly woke up. System, you really know how to play. But before she woke up, she asked Jiang Exin to inform Ouyang Shixin of something. What did you say? Ouyang Shixin asked in surprise. You're saying that the clone is still alive and even has new organs growing in his body. Yes. Jiang Exin said with certainty, this discovery also makes me very excited. After doing experiments for so many years, I've never seen such a situation. Mr. Ouyang, I suspect that this clone has the ability to regenerate. More importantly, we might be able to discover the possibility of regenerating substances from the other party's body. After Jiang Exin said this, he felt extremely displeased. Only little Tian could force him to say such disgusting words. The shock and joy on Ouyang Shixin's face made Jiang Exin even more unhappy. This human really deserved a beating. Just bear with it. Little Tian still has important things to do. Professor Gao, just go ahead and do it. Funding won't be a problem. Ouyang Shixin had already thought about it. Once the research on regenerative matter was successful, it would be a great thing for him. Then his company's products would really be the best in the world. As for the fact that a clone was a living being, he was sorry. In his eyes, a clone was not a human, but a tool. Jiang Xian agreed and said that he would continue the research. However, from time to time, he would talk to Ouyang Shixian about how the clone's organs were growing again, including how the clone's face was in pain and how he was screaming Ouyang Shixian's name. He told him everything. Everything is good. She's just too noisy. Jiang Xian continued the lines that Tangua had arranged for him. Every day, she calls Mr. Ouyang's name. Do you want to go and take a look? Comfort her a little and maybe she'll obediently wait for the organs to grow. She seems to want to see you very much. There's no need. Ouyang Shixian laughed in a low voice. It's just a clone. Don't pay attention to her. If you think she's noisy, Professor Gao should have a way to solve it. In the future, about her situation, if it's not a regenerative substance, then don't report to me. Top point. Chapter 3348. Although Ouyang Shixian said that there was no need to report the latest news about the clone to him, Jiang Xian seemed to have forgotten about it. During this period, he would still inform Ouyang Shixian of some important news. Of course, the important news would often be related to the clone's daily reaction. Because the clone was soaked in the nutrient solution, it could be considered to promote the growth of the organs in the clone's body. In just a few months, Jiang Xian told Ouyang Shixian the good news. It's all grown back? Ouyang Shixian was still very surprised. Although a lot of expensive things were used, in just a month, all the organs had completely grown back. It sounded really incredible. Is there any difference from before? So far, there is no difference. All the organs are like the first time, growing very well. Moreover, her wounds have completely healed, and the scars on her abdomen are gradually fading. According to the current situation, all the scars will disappear in less than 3 months. Jiang Xian continued his lines. Mr. Ouyang, now we can be very sure that there is a regenerative substance in this clone's body. Not to mention completely obtaining such an ability, even a little bit of it would be a very great discovery. Ouyang Shixian of course understood that in this world, there was still no ability to remove many deep scars on the human body. Once such a regenerative substance appeared, the smallest gain would be to remove the scars on the human body. Thinking about it more broadly, perhaps some people who were disabled due to accidents might be able to regrow their body parts after using this kind of medicine that had the ability to regenerate. This was indeed a very great discovery. About the current research, are there any difficulties? Is there a lack of funds, equipment, or manpower? Now, he could give Gao Feng whatever he wanted. This experiment was really a pleasant surprise for him. He could already imagine the day when the Ouyang family would be famous all over the world many years later. There are no other difficulties at the moment. The funds that Mr. Ouyang just allocated to the laboratory are still very sufficient. There is no shortage of equipment and manpower. Jiang Xian said methodically. I came to tell you this because I want to ask you if you want to continue the experiment. After all, her identity is a bit special. We don't dare to act rashly. Ouyang Shixian suddenly laughed. No wonder Gao Feng was so timid. He was most likely afraid that the clone was a copy of Xiaogua, so he didn't dare to touch her. That's right. He had been too nervous about Xiaogua. He might have scared Gao Feng. He was afraid that he would touch her and anger him. Otherwise, with Gao Feng's temper, he might have already started all kinds of research. Dr. Gao, I said that you are fully in charge of this experiment. You can just do it without worry. I will bear all the consequences. Jiang Xian was extremely unhappy, but he still said, then I am relieved. After all, many experiments may threaten the life of this clone's life. Because she has a regenerative substance, we have already planned to remove her organs again after a while for research. In addition, we can also dissect other parts of her body. Of course, we won't move too much at once, mainly to see where her limit is. Chapter 3349. However, all of us in the laboratory can't guarantee that she won't die halfway through because she can't hold on. After all, the human body can't lose any important organs. I have to explain the consequences to Mr. Ouyang. Okay, I understand. Dr. Gao, don't worry about it. I'll say it again. No matter what the consequences are, I won't blame you. It's an experiment. What experiment doesn't have thousands of failures in exchange for the last success? Jiang Xian said, with Mr. Ouyang's words, I'm relieved. If there's good news, I'll inform you immediately. In addition, we'll keep the records and videos of every experiment. After all, these are very precious information. If Mr. Ouyang is interested, you can come and watch at any time. This was also the line that Xiao Tian told him to say. It was said that this line was very important. In the future, it would make Ouyang Shixian's heart break. Ouyang Shixian perfunctorily sent him away and went to the ward to see the female lead. Of course, the female lead now was Tanghua. Tanghua woke up half a month ago. Of course, after waking up, because she had a major operation and had been in a coma for nearly 10 years, it was impossible for her to talk and move like a normal person. She had to recuperate for a while. In the past few days, Tanghua had been able to speak clearly. Even her current recovery ability was much faster than the average person. Because of her physical condition, according to the doctor's analysis, it was best to let her recuperate here for 3 months. When her body recovered, and if there were any other bad conditions, she could be taken home. After all, once she left this place, if something happened, the general hospital wouldn't know her situation and wouldn't be able to help. The powerful doctors that were invited by Ouyang Shixian were also under the illusion of Tanghua. They all thought that they used the advanced medical equipment to perform an unprecedented large-scale operation. They didn't suspect anything at all. Ouyang Shixian decided to let these doctors stay on the island for 3 months. When Tanghua was completely fine, they would be sent away. Xiaogua, are you feeling better today? Is there any discomfort? When facing the female lead, Ouyang Shixian was rarely so cold. If there's any discomfort, remember to tell me. I'm fine now, Shixian. That's good. I've asked the doctor. You need to recuperate here for 3 months. After 3 months, I'll take you home. At that time, your body would have almost fully recovered. You're recovering very well. When you go back, you'll definitely be able to give your parents a surprise. My memory is still stuck at the moment I fainted, but I still feel like I haven't seen my parents and Zhou for a long time. Shixian, I can speak now. Can I talk to them? Tanghua asked. Ouyang Shixian was not surprised by her reaction. After all, the female lead's relationship with her family was very good. After her body slowly recovered, she would definitely miss her family. Okay, I'll call mom and dad now and have a video call with them. I'll tell them about your situation. How about that? Not long after, Tanghua had a video call with her parents. Because they had communicated with each other beforehand, and because the female lead had woken up, the two of them were very happy. They temporarily suppressed the discomfort in their hearts. Chapter 3350. After talking to Father Tang and Mother Tang, Tanghua asked to talk to Tang Zhou. Ouyang Shixian nodded and dialed Tang Zhou's phone again. But this time, he talked to Tang Zhou first. Xiaogua wants to talk to you. She has just recovered. The doctor said that she still needs to rest for a while. She can't come back for the time being. She can't run around or be stimulated. Don't tell Xiaogua about your thrilling racing experience. Don't scare her. Ouyang Shixian said such a long sentence. In fact, he was just warning Tang Zhou not to talk nonsense. The operation had been done and she had woken up. If she was stimulated and something happened, none of them could bear it. Tang Zhou was still locked in the office building. When he heard Ouyang Shixian's words, there was a sarcastic smile on his lips. In fact, he was sad and desperate. After being reborn, he still couldn't stop all this. He didn't know how she was. Brother-in-law, don't worry. I just miss my sister very much. I will talk to her properly. I won't say anything that shouldn't be said. Even if he wanted to say it, he wouldn't say it now. This time, he wouldn't hide everything. Maybe if his sister knew earlier, she could still be saved. Those things wouldn't have happened in the future. Maybe for his sister's sake, Ouyang Shixian would let her go this time? He knew that the clone was still alive and would become very powerful in the future. If Ouyang Shixian hadn't awakened her feelings and got rid of her, he didn't know what would have happened. After Tang Zhou and Tanghua talked, the two of them only talked about their daily lives. He didn't mention a word about the clone. He just cared about her body. In addition, he asked her if there were any other special reactions in her body. He remembered that his sister had told him about those memories. It should be the organ memory that made his sister know the experience of the clone, so she was especially afraid of it. He didn't know if the organ fusion had awakened her memory. But hearing his sister's words, it seemed that her memory hadn't awakened yet. Otherwise, his sister wouldn't be so calm. Tang Zhou was a little relieved. He ended the call with Tanghua and asked to talk to Ouyang Shixian alone. What about her? Tang Zhou asked directly. Now that my sister has woken up, shouldn't you let her go? Ouyang Shixian's eyes narrowed slightly. He instantly guessed a possibility. Could it be that Tang Zhou knew that the clone had a special situation? No, it should be impossible. Tang Zhou could not predict the future. Besides, this kind of heaven-defying regenerative ability could not be known without surgery. Perhaps, Tang Zhou was asking about the clone's current situation. A clone that has lost all its organs, of course it is dead. Tang Zhou thought it was funny. How could he forget that Ouyang Shixian was not a good person? It was only because his sister liked him and he was willing to protect his sister that they had a filter on him and thought he was a good person. Is he really dead? No one can live after losing all their organs. Little Zhou, you have to remember that she was born for Xiaogua. Now that Xiaogua has come back to life, her mission is complete and her life is over. Now that your real sister is back, don't think about the past anymore. But I will never forget what happened in the past. Chapter 3351. How did you deal with her? Tang Zhou asked tentatively. Even if she is dead, you should give her a funeral, right? You can't deal with this. Give her to me, and I will help her hold a funeral. She was born without a family, and now that she is dead, I want to give her a home. She is a clone of the laboratory. The people in the laboratory will deal with it. You don't have to worry about this. Well, little Zhou, I will bring Xiaogua back after a while. Don't ask about other things. Ouyang Shixian hung up the phone. About the clone with the ability to regenerate, of course, he couldn't mention it to Tang Zhou. This matter was still very important. In addition, he was not at ease with Tang Zhou. He was afraid that the matter of the clone would be exposed in the future. In addition, Ouyang Shixian had already arranged for people to clean up the villa inside and out. As for the existence of the clone, they must be cleaned up so that not a single trace could be found. If it weren't for the fear of being suspected, he didn't want the clone to live at home. But Xiaogua couldn't disappear for many years and appear out of thin air. In fact, there were still many people watching him. This was done to avoid complications. In addition, it was best to keep the most important person by his side. It was not easy to lose her. In the past 2 months, Tanghua had played the role of the heroine and got along with Ouyang Shixian without any flaws. In fact, there would be no flaws. After all, her clone had all the memories of the heroine. If she didn't know that she was a clone, she might think that she was the heroine. Ouyang Shixian didn't find anything. Although he was calm on the surface, the joy in his heart couldn't be concealed. In order to accompany the heroine, he hadn't returned to the company for several months and had been working on the island. Because of Tanghua's arrangement and the illusion from time to time, it was impossible for Ouyang Shixian to find out anything. Finally, the day came when the island left. During this period, Jiang Xen would appear from time to time and talk to Ouyang Shixian about the reaction of the clone. Occasionally, he would even invite Ouyang Shixian to observe it on the spot or show him some experimental videos. Jiang Xen was now much more comfortable. Thinking of Ouyang Shixian's ending in the future, he was not angry. These videos were all given to Jiang Xen by Tanghua. The videos were synthesized by the system using its own ability. With the technology of this world, there was no way to determine if it was real or fake. 3 months had passed, and several attending doctors confirmed that there was nothing wrong with Tanghua's body. Except that she would not be able to do strenuous exercise in the future, she was no different from a normal person. Ouyang Shixian decided to leave with Tanghua. Under Jiang Xen's reluctant gaze, Tanghua left with Ouyang Shixian. Boss, the human you asked us to keep an eye on has awakened. The king has already left. Do you want to go and see that human? When Jiang Exine heard this, his face turned even uglier. Thinking of Tangwa's arrangement, he said with a cold face, "Then let's go and take a look. How is she now?" "She seems to be doing well. We've already examined her. Her organs are no longer failing and are slowly recovering. According to the current rate of recovery, it won't take long." Not long after, Jiang Exine arrived at the female lead's residence. This was a secret room specially prepared for the female lead. Jiang Exine didn't feel anything when he saw the face that looked exactly the same. Vertex, you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.